I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that everybody could make the meeting tonight with this little shift. I think in retrospect, it was good we held it on Thursday. A lot of struggles with the snow on Thursday, so. Just want to mention that the Verizon Wireless is off the agenda for tonight. But I do want to just say, move that we open the public hearing for it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, anyone here wish to speak on the Verizon public hearing tonight? All right, seeing none, I move we adjourn the public hearing to December 13th, 2018. Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. At this time, I move that we allow public comment on any other items on tonight's agenda. We ask that you please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and the planning board will consider any comments made during this portion of the meeting, but will not respond to them during the meeting. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed 6-0. Does anyone in the audience wish to comment on any items on tonight's agenda? Come on up, Ann.
Hello, Ann Shershin, 6th Ward Town Council person. I'm here to comment on number 4, the Water Wastewater Authority parking lot. And I would also like to request that when they redo the parking lot, they take down the drive-through from the previous bank, because it's rather unnecessary and it's a large structure, and we're hoping that even more parking places could be generated in that spot. And then in place of it, to store their tools, they could put a shed up behind the building. There's ample room on the grass there to put up a shed to store their tools, and then also install an overhang over the section of first row parking right behind the building that could have solar panels on it, like we've seen in several places in the city of Poughkeepsie, because this could also generate a revenue for them and help assist with their electric bill. And also, we are glad to see they're taking out the that fence and curbing that they have running down the middle and installing more parking places. Unfortunately, when this was a bank, they left it open public parking. They did not limit who could park in their parking lot. And the hairdressers and nail salons across the street, their customers have grown accustomed to parking there. So we'd like to approach the Water Wastewater Authority to see if the town or if the Arlington Business Improvement District could possibly lease a portion of the parking lot and have it available as public parking around the clock. And furthermore, we really it turns out that it is an awesome polling place. We've been using it for the polling place twice now and have received nothing but positive comments. That the previous polling place was the former Arthur S. May School, and when they closed, it got bounced to the new school, which is difficult to find and confusing and difficult for students and senior citizens to get to. So this is actually a welcome polling place, and I received nothing but positive comments about that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ann. Does anyone else wish to comment on anything on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I move we resume the meeting.
Second.
Let's call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, let's move on to the next agenda item. Edmonds to Spinard, lot line revision. Lot line revision review is revised for a proposed conveyance of a parcel portion from Edmonds to Spinard. 361 Vassar Road and 12 Toddy Lane, zoned R20 residential, 20,000 square foot district, plus minus 1.76 acres and plus 1.17 acres respectively. Unlisted action, Myron Edmonds and Lakita Edmonds owners, and James Bernard and Ophelia Bernard owners. You've been here before a couple times. You wish to say wish to say a little bit about why you're back?
Well, you guys, the town approved our last submission, but it got bounced by the Department of Health. So
Okay.
we had to adjust the conveyance line to suit what they wanted us to do, and that's what we're here with. It's a little, the conveyance parcel's a little smaller than it was last time you saw
Okay,
it.
so you just had to shift the line a little.
Yeah, away from an approved and proposed septic line.
Any further comments, Eric?
Staff was recommending that the board reaffirm its previous negative declaration because there's no changed environmental conditions, and that they grant conditional lot line revision approval together with a 60-day time extension. No concern with the adjustments. Just a reminder that we'll need to get the revised deed instruments for the lot line change. So talk to your attorney and get those over to us.
So there's no legal issues with frontage or anything that
Nope.
occurred from this?
No variances,
Okay.
no legal
Great.
issues that we're aware of.
I assume no engineering issues, Don?
No.
All right, let's go around the board, see if anyone has comments. Joan?
I have no comments, thank you.
Great. Anything?
No, nothing for me.
Ben?
Nope.
Peter? Okay. All right. Yep, so we've seen this one a few times. I think we're good to go. So if you want to-
I move that the planning board find the environmental conditions for the proposed lot line revision as revised as are substantially unchanged since August 16, 2018, and that the planning board reaffirms the seeker negative declaration of August 16, 2018.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, to call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional lot line revision approval and also grant 60-day time extension of said approval from January 14, 2019 forward to March 15, 2019, subject to the following: respond in writing to the comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies. Said responses to review by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness and inclusive of the following 1 through 6D.
That's it. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Oh, you made the motion, you can't say second.
I'll second.
Okay, Joan second. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. You're on your way.
Thank you.
Coming in again. Up next, Industrial Retro LLC Lot Line Revision. The lot line review for a proposed conveyance, a lot of 2.75 acres inclusive of a 50-foot access easement from Industrial Retro LLC to MHTC Development LLC, which is the beneficiary of the easement. 15 Victory Lane, zoned IH Heavy Industrial District, plus minus 4.6 acres. And Dutchess Turnpike, zoned MHC McDonald Heights Center, minus 19.6 acres. It's an unlisted action, Industrial Retro LLC and MHTC Development LLC owners. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'm Jeff Kane with Kirchhoff Companies, representing MHTC Development and Industrial Retro LLC. This is also a map that most of you have seen before, albeit with a couple of changes. Again, Dutchess Turnpike. This is the east side of Dutchess Turnpike. This is what was, until the last meeting, a 38-acre parcel. If you recall, the back 18.41 acres were carved off of that lot. This became the recreation lot, which has been offered for donation to the town. We did jump the gun and actually say you owned it on the map. We'll fix that. We understand you haven't taken that yet. So that'll have the the current owner corrected. But that leaves the remaining 19.6 acres. That's again, the current lot as it exists after the subdivision from last meeting. And it is the adjacent lot, the 4.6 acre industrial retro lot, contains the access easement for MHTC Eastdale to access Victory Lane. And so the idea is to keep that access, to combine that with the MHTC lot. So this blue outline will be the new lot, the orange will be the remaining 1.85 acre industrial retro lot, which again is described as a buildable lot and has variances on it. So this pink line, that's what disappears between these two lots. So this will create, at the end, a 22.35 acre parcel. It doesn't change the zoning, doesn't add density. This remains in the IH zone. It just puts the ownership of this access and the ownership of these easements encumbered areas. It puts those all in the same ownership with the MHTC overall parcel.
So you don't really need an easement then?
We don't, right, but again, we tried to do this last year, and because this is the middle of subdivision, we couldn't finalize the lot line revision, so we granted the easements, and now we're gonna do the lot line, hopefully do the lot line revision, and that'll be complete.
All right, thanks. Anything further, Eric?
No, just, I think the only questions that arose were the land to be transferred is constrained by so many things, between archaeologically restricted areas, there's a deed covenant on it, wetlands, the offer of dedication, there's no land left really to do anything. The site easements, utility easements, so there is the effect of the lot conveyance of land will have no effect to the layout of the approved site plan. And the site plan will really have no effect on the use of that land because it's already been provided with the access. So one has no effect on the other. It does indeed seem to be an issue of ownership for the applicant, and that's all. So with that said, the staff is recommending the board readopt the neg deck like it did previously and grant approval as provided in your memo.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's a big wetland on that area as well.
Yes.
Without any engineering things, okay. Let's go around the board, starting with Peter today. Anything further? Ben?
I don't have any questions.
Nicole?
My only, well, I had a couple of things, but I think you're taking care of them. The maintenance of the water main, that's going to remain the responsibility of industrial retro, correct?
The water main that's in Victory Lane?
Yes.
Yes, there's that is maintained by 3 or 4 owners down Victory Lane, including the Poughkeepsie Business Park. Actually, Poughkeepsie Business Park does not own that water main. That's they own the land that water main is on, but it's maintained by Industrial Retro, the Dyson Racing building, and then the lot that is proposed to be conveyed, the 2.75 acre lot proposed for conveyance to the town. They all will maintain maintenance of that line. And you're right, because this parcel has responsibility for that. There'll also be some responsibility for that lot owner to participate in maintenance.
Yeah, that line will probably feed the new pavilion at the.
Yes, it's proposed to feed the pavilion. There's a stub already that's cut in from that line. There's a feed. I forget, it's 1.5 inch or 2 inch line already to the pavilion area. So we just need to tie that into the pavilion.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I have nothing to comment.
Right. The only comment I have is I remember what you have marked in red there was we had an office building proposed there a few years ago. As this, cutting this piece off of that does not prevent enough, still enough room for parking at a building there if need be in the future.
Yes, we believe it's still a buildable lot as it was then. So yes, it still works.
All right. I'm good then.
I move that the planning board, as involved agency for an uncoordinated seeker review, determined that Industrial Retro LLC lot line revision would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for the reasons set forth in a negative declaration dated November 15th, 2018, prepared by the planning department.
It's moved and seconded for uncoordinated secret review. Do I hear excuse me. Call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional lot line revision approval and also grant a 60-day time extension of said approval from January 14, 2019 forward to March 15, 2019, subject to the following. Respond in writing to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies. Said responses to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness and inclusion of the following 1 through 3D.
Do we hear a second? Moved and seconded to grant conditional. Call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. You're good to go.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Probably see you next month again for something else.
A little later.
Got a few more minutes. Next up on the agenda, Hudson Heritage. Hudson Heritage, discussion of conformance and secret findings for a proposed modified development master plan for a total 750 residential units, 350,000 square feet new commercial space. Good, how are you? The reuse of the administrative building, main wing, 80,000 square feet, and 5 other structures.
Thank you.
Site plan review for Phase 1 development consisting of plus minus 125 multifamily residential units in 4 buildings with plus minus 297 parking spaces, a total of 93,300 square foot commercial space in 15 buildings with 1,276 parking spaces, related streets and utility infrastructure, and preliminary major subdivision review for a total of 12 lots on the site and roads to be dedicated to the town. 3532 North Road, US Route 9, Zone HRDD, Historic Revitalization Development District, plus minus 156.19 acres. Type 1 action, EFG DRA Heritage LLC owner. That's a mouthful for this project. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Martin Berger, principal of Sabre Real Estate North LLC in Armonk, New York. I'm here tonight on behalf of the owner in connection with the application and the continuation of the discussion of conformance. With me this evening is Kyle Ahern and Stuart Messenger of Chazen, along with Connor McGrath of McIntosh Structural Engineering Firm. That is the firm that has reviewed the administration and the director's buildings, et cetera. And also I have Rich Andrea from Mazer Consulting that has been handling the traffic. So Stuart, Connor, and Richard are here, as well as I am, to address any specific questions you have in connection with the conformance analysis. And prior to that, or if with your permission, Kyle will walk through the presentation that he handed you out. We had a USB to plug in on a computer, but the computer's not here. But it's basically the material that's in front of you. And if you'd like, I'd like to have Kyle walk you through the presentation, which basically just highlights some of the items that we've been going back and forth on and that have been the basis of our recent resubmittal.
Mm-hmm. Good.
All right, good evening, all. So the plan itself really has not changed substantially since last time we were here last month. Since that meeting, with your comments and your consultant's comments in hand, we made some revisions to the text of the project assessment, made some clarifications, made sure that, our I's were dotted and our T's were crossed, essentially. Got that back into the town, and then we're here tonight, essentially, just to review those tweaks, and with the goal of not making any action tonight on the consistency, but for the board next month to opine on consistency with the approved development master plan. So tonight, really just a quick refresher, and any questions you guys have. Basically, after I go through what I have, you can ask any questions, then Mazer and McIntosh as well. You don't have to wait till the very end. We also made a tree removal permit application to the town this past week. So you guys are probably just seeing that for the first time now. So typically that would be done with the site plan. In this case, because there is an approved development master plan on the table, and because the finding statement clearly indicated that all tree clearing has to be done in the winter in order to avoid impacts to bats, we are asking that the board make an action on that. Again, not tonight, but at the next meeting. The reason for that is the winter tree clearing is only from November through March. So if that was not acted on until site plan review is completed, that would push them back until next November before they can start anything. So the main, like I said, the main changes that we made since the last meeting.
Sorry to interrupt, I just want to ask you about the tree clearing. Is that in any way helping or affecting the demolition process you were working on?
There are, once the abatement is complete and the buildings actually physically come down, there are trees in close proximity to those buildings that would be, conflicting with those buildings. So that also preparing the rest of the development as well within the limits of the approved development master plan.
But just to expand upon that, the trees with the bats are in the proximity of the demolition area. So in order for us to be able to demo the buildings in the next 12 months, we would need to remove the trees within this window. If we miss this window, then we have to hold off pretty much on everything for 12 months.
All right. Well, we'll discuss it more in December, I'm sure, but thanks.
Sure. So the main changes have been, like I said, tweaking the project assessment. A lot of language tweaks just to make sure everything, we go through all of the environmental thresholds and make sure that they're all, very clearly comparing current to approved development master plan. So I'm not going to bore you with every item by item, but some of the main points. There was some confusion about the pedestrian network, what was shown in the approved development master plan, what was shown as trail versus path. There was a different number used there. So we clarified total pedestrian network. So the net result of that is 8.64 miles now proposed, 8.37 miles previously approved. So we clarified the increase of pedestrian access in the network there. The impacts comparison table previously was shown the approved development master plan versus our revised current master plan. But in order to be able to analyze it on a per phase basis, we broke out phase one into its own column so that we can make sure that we're not only consistent as an overall project, but also as we move along through the construction phasing, making sure everything's planned out accordingly. And then obviously the figures themselves were updated just to display the most current plan. Those revisions were discussed at the last meeting, but they weren't actually in the figures for the development master plan. So those were added to the project assessment just to make sure everything is consistent. That was it for the project assessment and the main items, I should say. There were a couple other items that we discussed at the last meeting, so I just wanted to follow up with our findings and clarify some of those answers. The water and sewer, the approved development master plan called for water mains within the future public rights-of-way and the sewer mains within, excuse me, the future public rights-of-way and easements to be dedicated, which is what we're still currently proposing. And we have actually, the applicant scheduled a meeting with town representatives for early December to further discuss sewer and water infrastructure, capacity, potential future district needs, and, basically everything about the water and sewer infrastructure.
Okay.
A tree survey was brought up at the last meeting. We went back and looked through the finding statement to make sure that we were still consistent with the finding statement. And the long and short of it, I provided the quote from the finding statement, but the long and short of it is essentially in the commercial development area, mostly because of existing topography, it becomes basically impractical to save the existing trees there. So the focus for saving existing trees has been on the Great Lawn and bringing it back into a better condition. And then in the development area, we are proposing hundreds of new street trees to replace those that are being lost there. So that's from the finding statement. It's what we're still proposing at this time, so there's no change there. And the tree removal permit application I just spoke about, so I don't think I need to go over that again. And those were really the main items that we went through and made sure we had consistent for this meeting. So if you guys have any questions on any of those.
There were a couple of additional items that were important that I know
Sure.
were included. I just want to mention them
Yep.
verbally, but I know that there was, both from an architect and from an engineer, a letter or summary of a report on the condition of the admin building, right? So that was
Right, so
included in the
Connor's
project
going to
assessment.
speak about that, and then
If there's questions.
Mazur's also going to speak on traffic.
Okay, on traffic,
Yep.
right. Okay, good. Yep, thanks.
Yeah, those are two biggies.
Yeah.
Anything, Eric, or shall I go right to Liz?
Yeah, I do have a question. In the material, it talks about 72 garaged parking spaces. Where on the project are the garages going to be?
Sure, and that references specifically the Phase 1 residential. It doesn't go into any potential Phase 2 garages, but they are located on the back side of the...
South side.
The south side of the residential buildings in Phase 1. As you come around the radius of Hudson View Drive, those 4 buildings there.
And so for these buildings, I don't know if you can see this, located back here,
Correct.
are they going to have parking in the back side, or will all of their parking be in the front?
So those are the townhouses. The townhouses are currently showing essentially back alleyways, so there would be rear parking for those
Okay,
buildings,
all
yeah.
right. And just one other question. In your materials, it's from Sabre Real Estate Advisors, and you're talking about, I think, the main building, and you say that the ground, second, and third floors are intact and act to brace and support the exterior structure, and are unreasonably shaped today, and will structurally support the walls for a good amount of time. Are you going to discuss what that means, the word good amount of time? Like, can you quantify that?
Sure, we can discuss it, yes.
Okay. That was it.
All right, thanks, John. Let me jump to Liz here. Do you have any further input tonight?
Well, I've been going through the project assessment. I was provided, Shannon Bush from Chazen had provided me a tracked changes version of the text, and then when I got the actual submittal, I pulled out all the pieces, so I'm almost done going through those.
Okay.
The project assessment looks like it has been revised to address a lot of my prior comments. I'm just checking figures and the new illustrations. And then I did receive the structural engineering and architectural reports, and I do have questions about those, I guess. I was expecting sort of a summary letter and then more information or data or specifics to back it up, illustrations, graphics. But I'll wait to hear what you have to say about that, and I could reflect that in my written comments. But that was one issue I wanted to raise, like, I could appreciate the summary that I was reading, but it still raised question marks for me, and I wanted to know a little bit more,
Okay.
so.
Maybe when Connor comes up, we might be able to go into that in a little more detail after, if you still have, questions.
Anything, Don, from a stormwater?
Just wanted to ask one question. I know you said you were going to have a meeting about sewer and water soon. Do you have any intention to reuse any of the existing water or sewer mains?
Sewer mains, any of the existing, so in phase one, we are tapping in and replacing the entire main down based on the failures that have been on site in the past. And then in phase two, we'll be doing the same thing.
So you're tapping in and putting in new? What do you mean?
So we'll be bypassing and that full
So
replacement from that point
everything will be new?
downstream, yeah, from the connection point, yes.
From the connection point where?
So the current connection point is right adjacent to the main admin building. So everything coming down from 9G to that point will remain existing until phase two, at which time it will be replaced.
So in the long run, everything will be replaced?
Correct.
Okay.
And which way is that flowing? Is there force mains involved, or
Right.
is that going
It's
down
all-
toward Route 9?
It's all gravity except for the CIA force main coming across 9, and that's
Okay.
the force main. Yeah.
Thanks. All right.
Does that include you said from 9, the connection point from 9G? Is there a portion that runs along Paint Shop Road? And if so, is that portion going to be replaced or not replaced?
So from the eastern property line at Paint Shop Road, the sewer line runs essentially not necessarily within Paint Shop Road, but more or less in line. And then it cuts across through the administration building to the north side of the admin building. So it kind of meanders throughout the site there.
Mm-hmm. But you said you're looking to replace it all, so you probably, things are where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Follow the public right of ways, I guess. That's what.
Long term, everything will be A, replaced, and B, within the sewer will be fully in that portion will be in the public right of way, the roadway.
All right. Anything, David, to say to?
No, other than the reference to the meeting came up really in a response to a question that Peter had asked either via email or at the last meeting regarding the 2005 MOU, as well as setting up water and sewer districts. We are trying to set up a meeting with Don doesn't know yet because I just got the email before I got here, so I didn't get a chance to ask him, but with Don, Andy, Mike, as well as the applicant's team to go over not only MOU requirements and what still would be required now, but also just confirming where all of the new mains will be, laterals, et cetera. So that should take place hopefully early December, so that if not by their December meeting, then the next meeting after, that will all be worked out. So.
All right. Continue to go around the board, I guess. Peter, if you have any comments?
Have you given us a list of the roads that are going to be dedicated to the town?
Yes, there's 3 roads, Hudson View Drive, Winslow Gate Road, and the extension of what is Paint Shop Road.
Do we have a map of that? Is that in the?
It's on the subdivision. It's in the plan set, yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw that somewhere. It was highlighted.
You were going to provide us with a copy of the structural engineer's report on the administration building.
Yeah, so what we have is the letter report that's in the project
I saw
assessment.
a letter, but you were going to provide us with a copy of the report?
There is no.
There is no report at this time. There's no current updated report, and I can talk about that now if you like, and we can bring Connor up.
We can get back to that. A letter from between Mr. Welty and Mazer Consulting, Mr. Welty remarked that there are 4 items missing among the traffic improvements. New York 9G Paint Shop, Route 9 Home Depot, Route 9 Fulton Street sidewalk. And Mr. Mazer's response was that the items referenced above will be included in the current development plan, but he's not specific about when we'll get that information. Do you have any idea when that'll be made available? Will it be made available before our December meeting?
I would have to refer to Rich for that.
Rich D'Andrea, Mazer Consulting. So those items are included in our overall traffic improvements for the entire project. We had outlined as part of the seeker findings and in conjunction with the DOT a number of improvements that are phased in across the development of the project.
Right.
Those are included in that listing and they're in the findings. So it was just, the comment was specific to that we didn't specifically mention those, but those 3 intersections are actually included in the initial.
So we have
project.
the detail is in the submittal.
In the submittal, our most recent submittal, we were just acknowledging that those 3 intersections that were mentioned in your consultant's comments are included as part of the initial occupancy of the project. And that's specified in the finding
The
statement.
reason I asked that was this document was dated, I think, in July, and this letter was dated in October. That's why I asked the question. I was wondering why he would make that request if it had already been included in the materials that had been submitted.
Just for clarity, because I think the question was, in the finding statement, for the secret finding statement that the town board adopted, there was a couple of pages of mitigation measures that were required and were going to be phased in as part of, I think, DOT, as well as the town, but the DOT initially suggested it. My understanding was that some of that mitigation that is spelled out in the finding statement was not sort of copy and pasted into the report that was prepared by the applicant. So this clarification is that these 3 items or 4 items are also going to be incorporated into your plans.
Yeah, they're going to be included in the plans that we design, that the DOT will approve also, yeah.
If I could just interject, there were a few sections when I was reading the PA, the project assessment, where I felt that specific mitigation measures should be listed actually in the project assessment. And that was, based on the fact that the planning board, this is their record for which they'll be making either an amended findings or affirming the town board's findings. And I'm going to just suggest that maybe that needs to happen in the traffic section. It wasn't my comment to make because I don't.
Sorry that Anthony couldn't be here tonight. He was scheduled to be here last week when the meeting was originally supposed to be held, but obviously not everyone could make it.
But I think that would.
Okay, we'll get clarity on that if it's got to be incorporated in.
But if I may, there's no question that we know exactly what the mitigation is that has to be done with each of the phases. It's in the findings, it's acknowledged, and it's in the process of being, having the construction drawings progressed. So at the point in time that we start the work, we'll obviously have the drawings completed, inspected, signed off by all the appropriate parties.
Right.
But the identification of what the work is and when it's going to be done is clearly set forth. And if you want us to reiterate it in the project assessment, we'll be happy to.
For example, what you were just explaining is very helpful. And, because this project assessment is the planning board's document, that's the basis for how they will decide. So that's helpful. And I think because it's easy to, take right from the findings and just reiterate it here. So that'd be my suggestion.
Shed some light, that's all.
Yep.
Finally, this is really for your benefit as well as the town's. I remember going to a meeting on site there 25 years ago when the Psych Center was still open. I went with the manager of the town's collection system and the fellow who was the manager of the town water department, and we met with the state engineers, and at that time, there was a lot of concern expressed about the condition, even then, about the pipes underground. And, you know, I know there, in the city of Poughkeepsie, for instance, in the 80s and 90s, some streets actually collapsed because the pipes were so old. And you're faced with that same situation where you are now. I don't know if you had any conversations with the town when you're going through the process with them about what happens even after you dedicate the roads to the town, if some of those streets start to collapse, or even, I'm not even sure, since I'm not an engineer, if that is a possibility. But how will you deal with that? I mean, will the town be looking at you? Will you be looking at the town? Have you had any discussions along those lines at all? I'm just saying, plan ahead.
Right. Yeah, we've had many discussions with the town water and sewer departments. They're just as happy as everyone else to see these pipes being replaced because of their age, their history with multiple failures over the years. So the town will have they'll have their own consultants and sewer department, water department on site during construction to make sure that everything's built to their standards before they accept the lines. It has to be certified and approved through the Department of Health. But yeah, once they're dedicated, maintenance is the town responsibility.
Yeah.
From that point on.
My concern is only not with the new pipes, but with the old.
The old stuff left in.
There is no old, correct?
Well, there won't be any old.
Are you going to be removing all the old?
Yes,
Oh,
just
terrific.
for clarity, 100% of the old, and you're absolutely right, it is a terrible situation, and there have been numerous collapses to the point where it's a bad situation. 100% of those pipes are going to be removed completely, and then all of the brand-new utility pipes will be obviously designed appropriately, sealed, approved by all the appropriate agencies. Work will be inspected, watched, signed off on, and then when it's all finished, it'll be dedicated and accepted by the town.
I thought I'd read somewhere that the old pipes are going to be abandoned. I thought I'd seen that word somewhere in the...
You're absolutely correct. You don't want to abandon them because at some point they will collapse.
Okay, so they're going to remove them. All right, terrific.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think some of them were concrete, right? Is that some of those old pipes are concrete too, so that.
Well, just to use, be clear on terminology, we are proposing to abandon a certain, if they're not being excavated, some are being abandoned, but there's a procedure. You're not just leaving them as, empty pipe. You have to backfill them.
Okay.
So they're not just collapsing.
An ounce of prevention.
Yes.
Can I just interject one more thing? Sorry, but in the prior review, I had asked for mitigation to be summarized, and an appendix had been created just to specifically state mitigation measures from the whole findings. And so I think it's Appendix C. Now, I'm not sure which, but it's in there, and there is a very elaborate listing of traffic
Yeah, it's Appendix B.
impacts, and maybe it's just a matter of
Yeah.
adding a line to point to that.
All the mitigation measures are listed in Appendix B.
And just a note on the traffic and the mitigation, notwithstanding the amount of mitigation traffic improvements for, quote, the initial phase, we are doing materially more than that as part of the initial phase because we believe it's necessary to meet our internal requirements.
Thanks. You finished, Peter?
Yes.
It reminded me quick of talking about those pipes, but there's also a whole steam tunnel network underground there. I assume it'll be a similar thing where some of those have to be taken out and some will be buried in
Some
place.
taken out, some backfilled, depending,
All right. Ben, anything tonight?
I was going to ask just what you did
Oh.
about the steam
Oh,
pipes.
sorry. You might want to
Central
pull
power.
your mic down there.
I'm sorry, they had a central power plant before. So in the same line with the water pipes and sewer, like Carl said, some of the old steam pipes are going to be abandoned in place.
Correct. So abandoned means essentially taking the top of the tunnel off and filling it with material so that it's not just, standing
And
there.
there's no asbestos in those pipes or anything? It doesn't matter if you abandon them, right?
They've all been checked for asbestos. We have a complete inspection report, and we bought out, or we hired an asbestos contracting company. That's quite significant, and whether it was in the report or whether it's not, it's their obligation to remove. And as Kyle was saying, with the procedure with the pipe, like a steam pipe, is you cut off the top and then you fill it in so that you eliminate the ability for it to collapse because there's nothing to collapse.
Okay.
Great. Anything else, Ben?
That's it.
Let's go with the.
Yeah, I just have a question on your current view of your ability to maintain the buildings parked as preserved. Are you still confident in being able to do that? Or?
Yes, we can get into that now with your permission.
As well.
I don't have any comments
Anything further right
or
now?
questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a discussion here tonight anyway, so we can all chime in as the issues come up, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun. I was just excited to discuss it.
So let's move on. Everybody's got questions about things. So.
To answer Liz's questions, we did not, at this point in time, do a, quote, a structural analysis and engineering report with great details on the administration building. And we didn't do it for a couple of reasons. The first reason we didn't do it was the status and the structural stability of the building appeared to be quite obvious to our head of construction, our outside architect that was here a few weeks ago, as well as to our structural engineering firm. And the second reason we didn't spend a lot of time and money on that report is that it's not going to be helpful for us ultimately in terms of what to do to address and preserve the administration building. And Connor is here to elaborate and et cetera. But let me, if I can, let me just give you an update on what we have been doing and what our plan is and what our timing is. And then I can have Connor address any specifics, if that's all right.
Sounds good.
And we have had conversations with members of the Historical Preservation Committee. So I think they're up to speed on where we are. So we have previously had all three of our professionals, in-house and out of house, walk the buildings floor by floor, hallway by hallway, staircase by staircase, and analyze the existing situation. We've had drone videos and photos taken of the building from all sorts of angles. And we talked about all sorts of mitigation that we can implement now. We talked about putting a roof on it and putting tarps on it and so on and so forth. And the conclusion was, number one, get working on a permanent solution as quickly as you can. And secondly, don't put any tarps or roofs or anything or else on it because you'll put loads and stress points where it shouldn't be. So we are developing this entire property, as you know. The south is, and we don't have a plan to, quote, do the south and hold off on the north. Our plan is to proceed as quickly as we can with the entire development. Financially, we have to complete the entire development in order to recoup the investment. It's not going to happen on the south. It's not going to happen on a third of the north. It's only going to happen on a successful completion of the entire development. So when you look at the site plan, the administration building is prominent on the top, and to the left there's contemplated uses, and on the right there's contemplated uses. So it's obvious to me, at least, and hopefully to you, that we're not going to be successful in leasing or selling the pads to the left or the right with the administration building in its current environment. It's burnt down, it looks like a haunted house. No one's going to take occupancy to the left or the right of it. And similarly with the director's residence, that is prominent as you enter the site. you're not going to be able to lease the townhomes or the apartments just beyond it if they're going by this terrible situation. So from a timing point of view, we are aware that, in order to be successful with the site, we need to address up these two buildings. And that's basically sooner rather than later. And that's basically our intention and our plan. So toward that end, we have retained the architect and the engineer, and we released them to do exactly that. We released them on the first half of their contract, which is to start the plans and start the works to restore the exterior look and feel of these buildings so that they look like gems when you come into the site and when you're on site. And that's very important, not only to you, but it's more important to me. It's more important to us to do that because it's a critical element of our success. So we release them on that. At the point in time that we have users, we release them on their second phase of their contract, which is to prepare the interior construction drawings, structural drawings, to reutilize the building. So that is in place and that's started now. The second step that we've implemented is we took a very hard look at some samples, and we specifically focused on the Richardson Olmsted property in Buffalo, which is also a Kirkbride building, and I guess that's the standard, or that's the objective that we would look to hit. So if you go online and you look at the main Kirkbride building at Richardson Olmsted, that's our desire to get to that point. Initially, until we have a user, we hope to make the exterior and the roof look like that, light it up, make it look attractive, and hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll take that, quote, out of pocket and recoup it by having a user in those buildings.
That's the Hotel Henry that's up in Buffalo?
Correct. The Hotel Henry is actually to the left of the administration building.
Okay.
And they use that main administration building for a restaurant on the first floor, a little cafe on the first floor, meeting conference centers on the second and third floor, and there's actually a chapel up above. So we've given that image and that plan to our architect and our engineer, and we said that's what you got to get to, and that's what they're working toward. And then in addition to that, we reached out to the builder of that project, thinking that they had special expertise in dealing with these Kirkbride buildings, and according to them, they do. So they have all of our materials, all of the existing plans, the as-built plans, the pictures, the photos, and they are in the process of putting together their proposal and plan to complete the restoration of the exterior and the roof of the Kirkbride building. The director's building's in much better shape, and the small buildings in the back are watertight and they've been secured, so much less of a concern. So they're in the process of preparing their work, and they'll give us their proposal and their recommendations and their timing and their budgets. And then in addition to that, we also have another local firm, local general contractor, who says that they also have expertise in this kind of work, and they are doing the same thing. So we have two contractors that are preparing their proposals and budgets and means and methods to do the work. So that's basically where we are. I mean, we're currently talking with users for the land area to the right of the administration building. Mm-hmm. We're talking to hotel operators about integrating the administration building, and we're talking to other users that can use conference capabilities about the administration building. But at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to lease or sell the pad to the right or the pad to the left until we nail this down. So it's on the forefront of our burner to attend to it, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, kind of one project up there.
It's one project.
Quick question. Are you using, on both sides of the main administration buildings, those like kind of those diagonal walkway tunnels, are those going to be able to be incorporated?
No, that's the north and the south wing, and everyone's concluded that those are too far gone to be saved.
Have you, are you having ongoing conversations with the State Office of Historic Preservation?
Yes, we've had all of our conversations back and forth with them. They basically have agreed that the main administration building is the building component that has to be remained. They are basically going to defer their, and they've given us construction procedures and requirements of photography and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much.
Have you shared that correspondence with us?
I believe that we'll have it any day now.
Oh, terrific. Could you provide us with a copy?
Yeah,
just
of
so we
course.
can say. Now, when you had a meeting with the town's Historic Preservation Committee.
I'm sorry?
You mentioned you would talk to the Historic Preservation Committee. Is that the town Historic Preservation Committee, or is that the state?
I believe so.
Okay. Can you summarize for us what kind of responses you received from the town Historic Preservation Committee?
I'd be happy to let them speak for themselves.
It's not a public hearing.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't have any objection to it. If you could summarize.
If you have any.
Okay, I'll summarize and maybe they can raise their hand and say yes or no if I'm
well
wrong.
armed. They're well armed.
I think first of all, the objective of the conversations was to open a dialogue and have a two-way dialogue. I think we've succeeded in that. I think the second objective was to convince them that of our objective and our intention of preserving the required buildings and to do it in a dignified way as I've presented. We've shared with them all of the information that I have just outlined with you a few times. We've had our architect and one of our associates meet with them and go over some details. I think that we have a working relationship with them and a commitment to proceed down the path that I've just stated. They've been helpful in bringing preservation ideas and means and methods to us, along with perhaps addressing the SHPO need to do photography. And I think we're on the same path, and we're going to schedule a date to walk through the buildings to be demolished with the view of either selecting components that'll be reused in the development or perhaps taken off-site, stored, or used in other historic developments.
Was it your sense after your meeting with them that they felt encouraged by your approach to?
I believe so.
You'll have to
With the preservation.
Come on up to the mic.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind using the microphone, yeah, if you turn it on, it'll go on in just about 2 seconds. Just give it.
You can take it
You
out.
can pick it right. Yeah.
Don't hit me with it.
I'm not going to hit you. Okay. Yvonne Lobby, I'm with the Preservation Commission, and Marty's correct. I think, speaking on behalf of the Preservation Commission, we've talked to Marty today, earlier in a conference call. We've also met with his development manager and architect recently at the town preservation meeting. And it just died. Hello. There's another one right there on the counter.
Battery problem.
My karaoke skills. So the most recent meeting at the Preservation Commission had with the development manager and architect was very encouraging. We shared a lot of our thoughts and ideas, and after today's follow-up meeting, we all feel very much like we were being listened to, which we appreciate, and some ideas have stuck, and they're running with them, and they've also, I believe, done a good job with security, or trying to listen and acknowledge our security concerns. It is an uphill battle, we admit, but we feel that they're on track.
Thank you.
I think we're not going to be able to lease or sell any of the units on top with the building in its current condition, and so it's really sooner rather than later we got to make it look as nice as we can. So, as I said, the objective is if we can make it look as nice as the Kirkbride building in Buffalo, that would be wonderful. So, and there's no reason why we can't do that.
Yep. Have you had any success? You said you were going to be bringing in some additional lights or patrols. Have you had any success with?
Yes, and
thwarting the
no and
vandalism?
yes. We tried to bring in a whole solar system. We bought the system, we brought it on site, and it wasn't working well. So at this point in time, we abandoned that, and we are we're bringing full power to the site. I believe it's there, and then we're pulling in full lights onto the site. And then in addition to that, we made an order for cable, and we have a series of cameras that are going on the building as well. So that'll probably be done in the next week.
Yeah, the vandals have made a mess of some of the stuff there, unfortunately.
Well, more important, I mean, you saw on social media, you see a picture of a kid or a guy standing on the top peak of the timber on the roof that's half charred, so.
Can we get, when that's done, the installation of that, can you let us know so we can just, have that
Of course.
on our record? Thank you.
Okay, let's see, anything further, Peter or Ben? Any other comments on tonight's issue? Let's bring up your structure. You had a structural engineer, I guess.
Sure.
Here, let me give some more details.
Stay.
I mean, the admin building is an important part of the whole project, so from the town's perspective, that's.
Good evening. I'm Connor McGrath. I'm with McIntosh Engineering. We're a structural engineering firm based out of Wilmington, Delaware. I was the one that walked through the site with a representative with Sabre. Our report, everything that went into the report had to do with our walkthrough and the photos from the drone. And the long and short of our report, I'm sure many of you have read it. Our understanding at this time is that the 4-story portion of the admin building is what is going to remain. At this time, we do not believe any temporary bracing is required. We do know that the fire originated on the southeast 2-story wing, but we also understand that that part is not to remain. So we don't believe that any temporary bracing of that 2-story wing is required at this time, since it is not to remain.
Okay.
If there are any questions, I'll be happy to
So
take
that
them.
fire just spread to the main building from there, you're saying?
Right.
In your report, you recommended monitoring existing conditions to assess the integrity of whether the bracing may be needed in the future. Is there going to be some sort of a protocol for how that gets done, and how do you intend to do that? Is that going to be implemented?
That's not something that we've discussed in detail yet. I mean, it can be any wide range of once a month, once every 2 months. After a rainstorm, after a huge snowfall, we think the best way may be just reutilizing the drone. The kind of pictures that the drone was able to get from above the building really told more, at least to me, the state of that upper level, since it's not too safe to physically walk on that upper level.
If I may, what we'll do following tonight is the next day or two, we'll have Connor's firm and Mark Schulman's firm outline means and methods for monitoring. We'll send it in.
Okay, yeah, that'll be good. Do you have a rough idea, from the time of site plan approval, when you think you'll be able to get to that building, Marie? Or
Like I said, I can't commit,
I'm
but
not asking to commit.
I think we have to do it sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I don't want to keep letting it go too long. As you said in your report, it may need bracing eventually if we monitor it, so.
The it would be a waste of funds, frankly, to get to the point where you have to brace it, because you can use those funds to restore it. I think we're kind of prudent with the money, and rather than spend whatever we need to brace it, which won't really serve a lot of purpose, we might as well put that money into productive new roof. So I know we have to do it sooner rather than later. As I said, we're not going to be able to lease or sell the pads. We're in discussions now with these users. This is live time, so
Okay.
the first question is okay, explain what I'm getting in terms of your delivery of pad, and the second question is what are you doing with the building next door? All of these leases and these leases have provisions. For example, the supermarket lease, that just doesn't say they're going to take the space. It says what a condition has to be surrounding them and what has to be completed on a date prior to them opening. So be sure that the pad that's going to be to the left or right of this administration building is going to say that they're not going to occupy, they're not going to open, they're not going to pay rent until the administration building is in a certain shape.
Yep.
So if our objective is to have those two pads occupied in even 24 months, and which requires then that they start construction a year earlier, that means that we have about a year to get that work attended to.
All right, thank you. Appreciate you coming up to discuss it with us.
No problem.
And we've used, we dragged him up here for 4 hours because we found that in the last 5 years or so of working together, maybe even longer, they take a very practical approach and have solved difficult tasks for us, so.
All right. Our other issue is traffic. I want to mention here one issue. Is
Thank you.
I think one issue that John brought up and I want to bring up also is the pedestrian issue of Route 9, pedestrians from Marist College coming over across and how that works in with the increase in traffic volumes and all the turns. Are they going to be trying to limit that to the Marist North Gate versus having a pedestrian crosswalks at the Winslow Gate?
There's no proposed pedestrian crosswalk at Winslow Gate.
Okay.
Everything will be restricted to the Marist North driveway. The only other pedestrian crosswalk that's being installed would be up at Hudson View Drive for access to the park.
Right.
So yeah, there's no pedestrian crosswalk at Winslow Gate. And that was something that was discussed with the town, and the DOT agreed that there was no desire to have a crosswalk there.
Yeah, there's no plans for a sidewalk on the west side of Route 9 there going up to the park, right?
There is not, no.
So
not as part of this project.
So that will prevent students from trying to wander up
Yeah.
and cross at various places.
And we'll have a continuous sidewalk on the east side.
Yep. Okay, anybody else have any comments on traffic tonight? Any questions? Speak out. I guess our only concern was that, all the variety of uses with the daycare and the gym and such, that was different than the original development master plan. Do you have any comments on how the traffic
How it compares?
report has compared?
Yeah, so just to give you just a brief overview of how we did our comparison. Basically, we did our trip generation analysis in the original studies. We did a new trip generation analysis based on the new uses. And we came up with traffic generated during the AM peak hour, PM peak hour, Saturday peak hour. When you look at those compared to what we were estimating that would be generated under the original plan, the AM peak hour shows a somewhat significant increase in traffic, about 250 vehicles, I believe. The PM peak hour, the traffic is expected to be pretty much the same. I think about a 40-car increase, which is not really considered significant. And the Saturday peak hour actually showing a reduction in the overall traffic, just because of the types of uses that are going to be used on Saturday. Some of those don't really generate as much traffic, specifically the daycare.
But the gym may have more use on a Saturday than.
Right, but and there's some office space that we didn't really account for before, so there's things like that on Saturday results in like 150 car reduction in traffic. Now, when you look back at the AM peak hour, which I said will generate more traffic than we had originally planned or estimated, we did a new analysis of all 22 intersections that we studied in the original traffic study to to look at what the impacts would be of that additional traffic. And just as a reminder, what we did originally was we designed all of the traffic improvements that have been proposed for the PM and Saturday peak hours, which are the highest time periods for traffic in the study area. So when we looked at that AM peak hour with the higher trip generation under the new development plan, the actual impacts there aren't any new impacts as a result of that additional traffic because we've already designed those traffic improvements for higher volumes in those PM and Saturday peak hours. Okay. So while we do see some additional traffic on the AM peak hour and comparable or lower on a PM Saturday, because we've done that, we've designed to those higher peak hours, there's no additional impacts from the development plan.
And does this, the traffic plan overall take into account what's going on right to the north across from the culinary, the new project that they're planning up there?
Yeah. Everything that we've included a number of other projects. That was one of them. I don't remember off the top of my head the other list of projects that we included. Yep. Okay. But yeah, that was all included.
So that's a significant one as well.
Yeah.
But it's
not, and one of the other things
over the town line. But.
Yeah, since we're talking about that, one of the other things that had come up at the last meeting was that we're going to be doing some coordination of traffic signals and adaptive traffic signals along Route 9. They're also doing that, and the DOT is actually coordinating the coordination between this project and that project. It was something that that your traffic consultant actually had discussed with the DOT, and
if you get the DOT buy-in, that's good.
If I could just add one other element, that is, when the original project was proposed, it really didn't have any connection with Marist College, and it really didn't have, it might have been, quote, called a walkable community, but there was no reason why it should be a walkable community. At this point in time, a lot of our uses are tied into Marist's needs. And for that reason, I think that in reality, a lot more people will be walking than what was originally contemplated in the study.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was some part of my concern about the people crossing Route 9, the students. If we can come up with some kind of better mechanism to warn, striping, whatever, a flashing sign, we'll look at that in the future, but something to let the cars know that there are students crossing there.
Mm-hmm. Will we be getting any further analysis from our traffic consultant?
Yes.
And will that be done in a timely
Yeah,
fashion?
both the traffic consultant and Liz and the whole team we're meeting actually next week, in the beginning of the week, to talk about our timelines, because we want to have those reports to you in writing prior to the December meeting.
Our meeting in December is on 8th.
Is early. It's 13th. Yes.
And today is the 20th of November.
So 3 weeks away.
We're amateurs, and it does take some time to walk through this material. So I'm just saying, the applicant I'm sure is paying plenty for this consultant, and in consideration of their expense, I think we're entitled to get this information on a timely basis so we can read through it and try to get some understanding.
Well, and that's the main reason why we said all along for tonight that we're not making any decisions tonight, because we got this material not with enough time to review it all. So they've been reviewing it. We've been talking about it. But now we got to get the written reports to you so that you can.
It's called on a timely basis.
Finalized.
Yeah.
And I did confirm with Phil Greeley that your traffic engineer, following last meeting, had everything that he was satisfied with everything that was submitted to him. So he probably has his report.
Inquiring minds.
Actually, I have one question about the traffic. I haven't gone through Mazur's report, and I'm not a traffic engineer, but maybe for the board's benefit, can you come, relative to the development master plan that was previously approved and the findings that the town board adopted for that, can you summarize any mitigations in those findings that have either been supplemented or eliminated or reduced?
There's no mitigations from the original plan that we've supplemented. We haven't changed any of the mitigation from the original plan. The timing, I would say, for some of them have been moved up based on what the actual phasing and plan is. We know we had, as I discussed earlier, we had identified mitigation to occur at initial occupancy at 25%, 50% development, 75% development, and then at full occupancy. Some of those have been moved up because that phase one development is going to occur quicker than maybe it was originally anticipated. So we may jump right to that 50% development phase. But other than that, everything that we've originally proposed is still part of the plan of traffic mitigation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that phase
And
one
remember,
phase-
we had briefly discussed this, I think, at a prior meeting, about triggering the permitting process, based on the traffic mitigation. We had worked out a real good schedule on an Eastdale project recently, and, that's something we want to be tight, so the DOT is happy, and I think the board will be happy. And it looks like you are addressing those issues, by the way.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that in the final product, that they're locked in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make sure everything lines up. Sounds good. Thanks, Peter. Anybody else have anything?
I have a question. I know
Ben?
most of the construction traffic is going to be done during development within the project area, but will there be any impact on other local traffic during the construction? And is your construction barn or office going to be off somewhere where it doesn't affect other things in the development? And will that be used as a maintenance building at the end?
Well, certainly the construction offices and sheds and all of that will be on site and obviously far enough away from the first phases, yes. There is a construction traffic plan that's part of the application that has been reviewed in a manner to minimize any impacts of off-site. One of the initial things that we're going to be doing is doing the off-site improvements. So we should basically increase the quality of traffic and via the improvements before the impacts are brought on board. So it has all been looked at and addressed. I don't recall the specifics offhand.
Okay.
Okay, good question, Ben. Yeah, construction will last for a while on this project, so. Barring any other comments, the only thing I'd mentioned, I did get a chance to be down in Philadelphia, visited the town, the King of Prussia Town Center, and I think it's a nice project overall down there, especially the city works with 90 beers on tap.
Yeah, right.
But some nice restaurants and nice fast food type of, good fast food type of eateries and various things, so.
Thank you. I think it has a good Main Street feel. It's very walkable, has open areas. Every store is a little bit different in terms of its design. I think it's what people are looking for in today's times.
The only thing I did notice is it was raining pretty hard when I was there, and some of the overhangs were just created a drip edge and created some waterfalls off of those, depending on what our architecture winds up being here. It was a nice model of the whole site in the leasing office there. The other thing that was really nice was the fire feature. I saw people keeping warm at night. I don't know if you have anything like that planned for this project, but.
Yeah, it was nice.
All right. Thanks for coming in tonight. And
well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
See you in December.
Look forward to it. Thank you.
Move out of here.
You're on the ball.
Next up, Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority.
Because he did the findings with the town board, but maybe put him at the beginning, at the end. That was an hour.
Okay, for an amended site plan review for reconfiguration of parking in existing parking lot for the office building, 1 and 3 LaGrange Avenue. zoned ATC Arlington Town Center District, .41 acres and .40 acres respectively. Type 2 action, Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority owner. Welcome, and want to give a brief description of your project
Good evening,
plans?
I'm Bridget Barkley. I'm the Executive Director with the Water and Wastewater Authority, and with me is Tanya Clark, our Project Manager, and she can give you a quick overview of the changes we're proposing to make to the parking lot.
Hello. First, I'd like to just let you know a little bit about the authority. The Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority owns and operates 25 water and sewer supplies. We manage, oversee, and keep them in compliance. We do that by having our staff themselves do some operation on some of our systems, and we also contract out with water and wastewater operators to do the daily maintenance on our water and sewer supplies. So the authority purchased this lot, or actually the project lots, back in the beginning of this year. And our proposal in front of you right now is really to get the parking lot in a condition that we believe would provide us enough spaces for the use of our building and for our department. In doing that, we wanted to also minimize the entrances and exits from that parking lot. By doing that, we'll be able to add some additional curbing to both LaGrange Avenue and Davis Avenue. That will provide some additional parking spots and also provide I'll say a more normal traffic control through those two lots. We've actually proposed a looped traffic direction, which provides us the opportunity, once the teller drive-through lanes come out, to provide some additional parking to help meet what we believe we will need as the authority.
All right. Who's got this one, Liz, or?
I do.
So,
thank you for the overview. Staff has actually met with the applicant a couple times on site to review what is being proposed. They have actually submitted a formal request to waive the public hearing. That is up to the planning board. Also part of my staff review, we are recommending, if the board's in agreement, adopting a seeker resolution and also granting a conditional site plan approval based on comments received by not only the planning department but other departments as well. You will notice in your addendums received this evening that there are a couple of comments from Dutchess County Planning. They were received late yesterday afternoon. I apologize for the late notice on that, but just wanted to note that for the record.
All right. Any engineering issues with this, Don?
We have a few minor things, but nothing that would hold up site plan approval.
Okay. Let's go around the board then. Start with Joe.
Hi there, thank you. Just a quick question or comment based on the feedback we had from the public. Is it feasible to keep this facility open for polling purposes? It's not necessarily related to the application, but is that something you would consider?
That's not a decision that's up to the Water and Wastewater Authority. That's up to the Dutchess County Board of Elections.
Oh, okay. And also, there's a note in the file, just to remind you that there's water service, I guess, over by the kiosks, and if you're going to keep it, you know, you might want to heat it too, so just
Yeah, I think they may not have been keeping those buildings heated over the last few winters as well as they could have, and we do plan on keeping them heated.
Great.
Those structures will be used for our operations and maintenance crews to store their equipment and materials.
Okay, thank you.
There was a comment earlier this evening from a person in the audience about using this area for parking after it's complete. Is that something that's being talked about or considered for the community?
We're using it for parking for the Water and Wastewater Authority's administrative offices.
And I think the comment was that some of the local businesses, customers are parking there now.
Over time, As we understand it, the bank vacated the property about 2 years, well, more than 2 years ago now, about 2 years prior to us purchasing it. And we understand during that time that people did begin to use the parking lot as if it were a public lot, but it's not. And it is our intent to utilize the parking lot for our purposes.
Okay.
Was there, just to add to that, was there, the parking requirements exceed what you need, or is there any spaces that could be made available for the public, such as on the exit?
Well, we did an assessment of the parking before we purchased the building because the authority is tending to grow on an annual basis with additional water and wastewater supplies. So it's the hope of the authority that we also have room with this building and the parking to expand a little bit in the future. But our current uses really show that we're going to be using the majority of the parking spots, with the exception of possibly 2 that are created by this plan in front of you. And after the latest snowstorm, we remembered that we're going to also need some place to put some snow when we have some storms. Yeah, we don't want to end up pushing that out into other areas and the streets, so.
I assume your hours of operation are more like a 9 to 5 kind of day? Is there any-
We're more like a 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. operation. We
So I-
generally have people in the office over that duration of time.
So I didn't know if there's a consideration to, allowing some shared parking during evening hours, people going to restaurants nearby or something.
Not at this time.
All right. It's just a tight parking area overall.
So is there going to be veg and parking in that lot for the people who work there?
I'm sorry, is there going to be what?
Veg, like how would you get into the lot if it's not going to be available to?
At this point,
Keeps
we're
the-
just going to keep it open and hopefully with the modifications that we've shown you, it'll identify the lot more as belonging to the building and being a private parking facility. At this point, we don't have plans for badging or anything like that on the vehicles.
Yeah, if you don't want people to park there, maybe you should think about putting up a sign, public, private parking or something like that.
Okay.
This way, people know, because otherwise, it's gonna happen. You're gonna have people from those businesses that always parked there, and then, you might have a problem on your hands.
Okay.
So I also wanted to make a comment of the handicap parking. I believe you might have already spoken to the planning department about this, but just, a reminder to keep those access aisles at 8 feet.
Yeah, I've been working on that. The parking that exists there now is actually a little wider than it's required and longer by the code, longer and wider than required by the code. So that's an easy change that I've already started to work on.
All right, and
Thank
I
you.
also wanted to just mention landscaping, and I was kind of wanting to pick your brain. What were you guys thinking about as far as landscaping was concerned?
We want to keep it evergreen. So I know the code requires 1 to 2 feet, 4 to 5 feet. I have a couple of concerns with landscaping. One is to identify the parking area as contingent and part of our property again. The other thing is I want to make sure that safety's considered, so I don't want to put a lot of tall things up to block sight in or out of the parking lot for
Right,
either
'cause that's
vehicle
kind of a
entrance,
hard
exit, or
area right
pedestrian
there.
traffic.
Right.
So I actually have been working on a couple proposals. Really, it's just small evergreens.
Okay. And you had mentioned before that you wanted to cut off a couple of those in and outs. Which ones were you thinking
Right.
about doing?
So the in and outs that go under the teller booths,
Okay.
those 2 will be blocked.
Okay.
And
So you're
actually-
just thinking about doing like a loop?
Yeah, just a loop, and the
Okay.
entrances that will be entrance and exits that will be left are the ones closest to Raymond Avenue.
Okay.
On both sides of LaGrange and on Davis.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
We're proposing to go from 6 curb cuts down to 2.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
good.
because some of the current curb cuts aren't useful at this time for
Right.
parking anyway. So it just
Yeah, it
takes
was
away
made-
to the,
It was made for all the drive-throughs of the banks, so. it's-
yeah, and we're going to use the existing teller buildings and the cover over them, the canopies, to actually park some of our authority vehicles for our maintenance staff.
Do you have anything further?
No, that was all I had.
Let's go to Peter.
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but would you have any objection if Councilwoman Shershin should contact your office to discuss if there's any way to develop some kind of parking plan for the neighborhood?
I did participate in a meeting requested by the town supervisor, and we indicated at that point if someone wanted to come forward with some sort of proposal, that we would take it to our board of directors for their consideration.
Terrific, thank you. The landscaping, you're providing 1 to 2 foot evergreens at a spacing of 4 to 5 feet. Something that low level, a 45 foot spacing might not, I mean, you might want to think whether or not that would meet your objective, because probably wouldn't really.
Okay, so a little taller, we could keep them spaced at that distance, a little shorter, put a little bit more density?
Yeah, it's up to you. I mean, I'm just saying, don't waste your money. You might as well do something the first time, you know, that meets your goal.
Yep. I mean, the county chimed in with, some street tree suggestions as well. You don't want to limit your sight distance to turning it out.
Yeah, I did see that late today. I did want to mention that when we met with Captain Finn, he was concerned about getting emergency vehicles through the entrance and exit that we're leaving. So if we do add any larger size vegetation, we're just going to have to make sure that it's not going to impede those entrance and exits.
You don't want it right there.
Yeah, that's why some of the trees have already been taken care of, because that was part of the request, to have emergency vehicles be able to get in and out.
Yeah, I want it to look nice, though.
Is it your plan to repave the parking lot or just reseal it? I know there are some potholes.
What we would like to do is patch the areas that we disturb and then to reseal it. We're not looking to repave the entire parking lot.
Are there some areas in there that need to be, it seems to me that there were some potholes.
We patched some already this summer. Our staff took care of that, so it's actually in better condition than it was.
You're going to restripe the parking lot?
Yes. Yes, and we will restripe it as per the proposed plan.
Right, because they're going the other way now.
Yeah, we're actually reconfiguring the direction of some of the parking on the back side because it's currently not directed for the travel pattern we're proposing.
And the reason you're retaining the drive-through areas?
For us, it's great storage for our maintenance and operations staff. They can keep their vehicles under there. It'll help when there's bad weather and they don't have to clean their trucks off before they're out for an emergency. It'll also allow them to store a lot of their tools and items in those buildings.
I'm not sure if we have a requirement for enclosure for that type of activity. Do we? Do they have to be? Does there have to be some type of screening for that kind of use in that
We're
location?
actually proposing to plant vegetation along the Davis side behind there. I've actually proposed to extend the landscape island, for lack of better term, all the way across the back where those 2 curb cuts are going to disappear. That will be vegetation. Again, I don't want to put too tall of vegetation in because I don't want to start blocking areas off for sight and safety, but it will definitely help with the screening.
Okay, great, thanks.
Anything, Ben?
I have nothing to add at this time.
I guess,
If I just have one quick question, if you don't mind. When you enclose the ATM area, are you going to put walls on both sides?
No.
Okay.
No,
So
we just
setback
plan on
issues.
patching. If you've taken a look at it, the one side of one of the it's not an ATM, but the teller area.
Where the
Right, just kind of has like a patch on it. We do plan on making that a little bit more permanent, but we are not looking to put walls in the front or the sides or anything like
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
That was along my question, are you doing anything architecturally to those? Like, it looks like a teller window right now, so.
No, we just want to make them secure and weatherproof at this point.
Have you had any conversations with the Arlington bid? Because, this is part of the Arlington Town Center area, because they may have some input on what type of landscaping would look nice there, and et cetera.
Okay, we have met with representatives of the Business Improvement District. They didn't make any specific suggestions as far as landscaping, but we can follow up with them.
I think that would be good to do, because versus put something in and then have it, be be in conflict with what their overall plans are for that area. Good to gather the most input you can before you make the decision and spend the money on it. And you said you were looking at, the Board of Elections has to work on the polling issue. But you're open to having it still being a polling place if they agree to it?
We do not have any control over that decision. That's
Okay.
entirely by the Board of Elections.
So you may be reconfiguring what's inside the building anyway to office spaces, and
We are doing some renovations inside the building, yeah.
so that may change what it does as well. But, all right. We're ready to move forward.
I move that the planning board waive a public hearing for Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority amended site plan review per Town Code 210-151L.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed 6-0.
I move that the planning board determine that the proposed meets the criteria for a seeker type 2 action pursuant to seeker part 617.5C1 and no further environmental review is required.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan approval for DC WWA 1 and 3 LaGrange Avenue, subject to the following: respond to the comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said response to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness inclusive of, but not limited to, the following 1 through 8.
And I'd like to add number 9, if you're all right with that, to include comments from tonight, including, discussions with the Arlington bid and anyone else have anything? That's it.
Second.
Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Good luck with the building, and
Thank you.
appreciate anything you can do to work with the community on the parking and the landscaping and whatnot to
Thank you.
to
Thank
fit
you
in-
all.
to fit
Thank
in
you very
down there.
much.
All right. Next up, Riverside Office Park. 2645 South Road. For an amended site plan review for conversion of a 3-bay garage, plus minus 1,200 square feet, to office space and adjoining vehicle access areas to seating courtyards at an existing 15,500 square foot office park building. 2645 South Road, zoned OR Office Research District and WD1 Waterfront District 1. 5.515 acres, type 2 action, South Road Properties LLC owner.
Hi, my name is Kim Hoover, and I'm with Hoover Architecture. I'm the architect for the project. I'm actually covering for Bob Giuliano, who's in Florida right now. Lucky him.
Oh, too bad. We like when Bob comes to.
So the project is simply, as you stated, it's an existing 3-bay garage that we're just converting into 5 offices with a conference room and a reception area, as well as adding a new 58-square-foot building vestibule that'll go into an existing building entry.
Yeah, it looked pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Any, Eric, Kristen? who's-
Sure. Staff was comfortable with the proposal. We're recommending a couple of resolutions. It is the coastal district. We did receive a coastal assessment form. It does appear adequate if the board agrees. So there's a resolution for waterfront consistency. We're recommending, if the board is in agreement, to waive the public hearing for this small change. And we're recommending conditional site plan approval. Our comments are mostly just clarifications of information on the site plan.
All right, thanks, Eric. Any engineering issues on this one, Don?
We just want a couple of things on stormwater, just to make sure everything's going to drain away correctly and show existing water and sewer service, so we have it on record. That's it.
I mean, it looks like they're removing some blacktop as well to make those brick patio areas, so some more infiltration should happen. Or is
Right.
that-
Yeah,
okay.
yes.
Or you're just putting the brick on top of the.
No, we'll take the asphalt out and then we'll
asphalt
grade
out,
it.
Okay, so that. Nope. All right. Around the board, start with Ben this time. Ben, have any comments on this one?
No.
Peter?
You did your homework. It looks good, and it's a nice project, so.
Thank you.
Let's go with Nicole here.
Sure. I just had a couple of questions. You're not proposing any new signage or anything like that, correct?
No, no.
Okay. Any landscape at all that you're proposing, thinking of?
Just what we put on the plan, on the site plan.
Okay. No type of like buffer though between the two buildings or anything like that?
No, the property line is right there on the
Okay.
curve, so.
Okay.
And there's actually a grassy area with some really big, beautiful trees there, so they already put some benches out and things like that. So it's really nice.
Okay. All right.
Well,
Thank you.
Joe?
No, I have nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's good. Put some office use in there. What did I have a question on? Oh, I had the signage question also, so you're just leaving that current sign on Route 9, any new use?
Yeah.
Would, just put up a new placard there.
Right, yep.
All right. Good to go. Yep. Waive the vote.
I move that the planning board waive the site plan public hearing in accordance with 210-151D.
Second.
Moved and seconded to waive site plan hearing. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
I move that the planning board determine that the proposed activity is a type 2 action that is not subject to seeker review pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.5C7 of the seeker regulations.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 again.
I move that the planning board determine that the Riverside Office Park 2645 South Road site plan is consistent with the town of Poughkeepsie's approved local waterfront revitalization program because it will be conducted in a manner consistent with such program.
Second.
Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye. I move that the planning board grant conditional site plan review approval for the Riverside Office Park 2645 South Road site plan, subject to the following, respond to the following said responses to be reviewed by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness in questions 1 through 8D.
Second.
Moved and seconded to grant conditional site plan approval. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0 again. Thanks. Good luck with the project. And
thank
thanks
you.
for hanging in there. It's a long. We had a few big items today. Okay. Speaking of hanging in there, next item on the agenda, Eastdale Village, McDonald Heights Town Center, architectural review for an approved amended site plan for a proposed mixed-use development consisting of up to 390 residential dwelling units in apartments and townhomes, up to 124,995 square feet of commercial and non-residential uses, and supporting infrastructure and amenities. 935 Dutchess Turnpike and Victory Lane, zoned MHC McDonald Heights Center and IH Heavy Industrial Districts, 60.87 acres and 20.11 acres and 2.75 acres. Seeker findings for type One action adopted March 15th, 2018. Site plan and special use permit conditional approval issued July 12th, 2018. Amended through September 20th, 2018. MHTC Development LLC and Industrial Retro LLC owners.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board. Again, Jeff Kane with the Kirchhoff Companies representing MHTC Development LLC. So I'm here tonight to talk about the architectural review for the new proposed medical office building, and this was the subject of the most recent amended site plan approval. But it's a 26,666 square foot, two-story medical office building located at the end of Eastdale Avenue North. That's again on the driving out of Poughkeepsie on the left side. It becomes the terminus building for that whole commercial side of the project. And so the idea as you're looking down our main street, what you're going to see is this building. And that's I think very critical to what we're looking to build there. And a couple things about the architecture and overall about the look and feel for the project. Remember, this is intended to be a traditional main street. So we're using traditional materials, traditional architecture to look like more of certainly not a new, not contemporary architecture, but traditional for this part of the country, the Northeast. So we're battling that with the idea of a group of medical professionals that want a new medical facility. So how do you marry those two items together? So we think we've been again working with our architects, Optimus Architecture out of Rhinebeck. We think we've been able to pull together both the look and feel of a traditional building and the new materials that'll really give both the medical group what they're looking for and retain this look and feel in the project. One of the things in terms of orientation, this is the east elevation. This is the elevation you'll see as you come down Main Street. The building is not centered on the center of that road, so it's slightly askew. This feature here is lined up though dead on as you come down the road. And so this feature became very important in our architecture because that's what your eye is going to see right as you turn into the project. So this became very important to really kind of define the architecture. The main front door is offset. Again, the front door as you're coming down the road will be off to the left there. So the front door with the canopy is over here, but this is the first thing that'll catch the eye. Now, what I've got is black and white elevations, and I'll talk about those for a little bit. We have a color palette to choose the materials, and I'll share those with you as well. But I've only got these in black and white because in working with both the architects and the medical professionals, have not finalized what the colors are, but I think you'll be happy with the selection that we have here, and give us that latitude to make the final decisions. Again, it's important, but it's at the same time we really need to get under construction to be able to get in the ground now so they can be operational. Our deadline is operational in November of 2019. It seems like a long time from now, but it's not. And so we're anxious to be moving forward. So what you see in front of you here is again a two-story building. It has the semblance of a pitched roof. It's actually a flat roof behind. This is a false pitched roof with black shingles. That we know. That'll again, these shingles will match the shingles on the other buildings throughout the site. On the upper floor. Will be shake-looking material. This is all hardy material on the building. So the upper floors will have those shakes, windows, glazing, black trim, and then there's a fascia board that'll match colors of the shakes, and then an 8-inch lapped siding below. Again, a hardy lapped siding on the lower level. Windows to match, black windows, and then the water board. Again, the color of this bottom board will match the color of the lap siding. We do have a canopy up front. This is a glazing here at the front door, and this material for this for the feature will also be hardy panels, and again the color will be slightly contrasting, but certainly matching with the colors for for both the shakes and the siding. So anticipate really the three colors: one is shake, one is the siding, and one for the tower feature there. And again, this glazing in the center here, all of the grid will be a black grid and dark glass in the center.
I mean, those are all windows there then in that?
Those are all, yes, that's all glazing in the middle there.
So what's behind there? Is that like a stairwell or a?
There are a combination. There are some offices. There's some open lab areas. There's some. It really kind of
okay,
spans the gamut, but it's some of it.
No particular thing. Like a
yeah, right. No particular thing
something.
behind it, right. So, and so to moving to the. Around the corner, again, as you're driving into the site, so around the right, the north elevation, this is what would face the the middle of the residential area. Again, a double gabled feature, continuing the shingles, cedar shingles, and the shingled look and the lap siding around the corner. Then you can see in relief that tower fixture slightly projecting from the front line of the main building and the canopy.
Does that stick out about 8 feet or so, something like that?
I'm sorry, say again?
How far out does that project from the?
It is, I think it's about 2.5 feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Less than I'm picturing.
Right. Yes. So, the back of the building, again, the rear entrance, we think a lot of all the drop off in front, a lot of the patients will be entering in the rear, or if they're dropping off in the front, will come in the rear. So this is really, certainly a building with two fronts from the user's perspective. Again, containing the materials around the building. A smaller canopy, not a car canopy, but a smaller canopy over the doors at the rear. And then on the south side of the building, on the opposite short side. We did not continue the roof line across this end because this will be our access to the flat roof behind, and so any rooftop equipment will be in that in the flat roof and access from that area. So that gives us the ability to get in and out, but the rooftop equipment is now hidden from all the public areas.
So that's the west facing or kind of southwest facing.
Yes.
Side toward the.
Yes.
Off-site.
So the colors, maybe I can just start right here. There are a range again of the hardy colors.
So all the equipment. I mean, viewing from that section, from that west side, will there be any of the HVAC be visible or kind of hidden behind the parapets mostly?
There are no residents on that side other than there's just a wooded area owned by Mr. Agro, but it's a distance from there to anybody else who would see it.
Parking is out that way as well.
Right, there's no parking that way. So, and again, this kind of describes how the colors.
You said you talked to medical people about this for their preferences for the new medical look. These actual tenants or
they will own. They're right. They are medical tenants, owners of the building. So
okay.
Is that out for you?
Build a suit and own.
I can take those for you.
Sure. Now that I'm done. Right. Oh, you know what? I need.
You need one.
Yeah. Thank you. Right.
Thank you. Serving today?
What's that?
Serving.
Thanks, Carol. That'll help.
Thank you. I'd love to have one.
Served on a platter.
Yeah.
We have this.
So is there any particular color they're leaning toward at this point, or?
There is no. All right. Again, we went through there are a bunch of standard hardy colors, and we went through a process with them, and really went to these neutral colors. I think yes, leaning towards kind of the blues and grays are were the preferred, and potentially
What do you think is
white for the tower. And that's some of the thought that, it's not been.
So you're thinking darker for the shakes or versus the plant versus the?
There's been two schools of thought. One was that darker on top, the other was a lighter on top. And again, thank you.
There we go.
Right, those have, that's the residential building, and so that carries some of the grays in, they have the stone on the bottom. This won't have the stone on the bottom.
That was, how's it gonna tie?
Right.
Depending on what
The architecture, the architecture really ties in, we
Thanks,
think.
Carol.
Yeah. With certainly with the gabled ends, that ties in.
Now, that's what's facing the residential.
Right.
The gabled ends look great. The architect you've been using is doing a terrific job. But I'm guessing that 13,000 square feet per floor, the dimension on the east elevation has got to be around 600 feet, give or take. That's a long stretch. And it's not really consistent with the other things that you've done there.
600 feet, that can't be right.
Well, 600 by 200 would be 12,000 square feet. You said it's 13,000 square feet a floor.
I think you missed a decimal.
Does that include multiple floors? Not on each floor, though.
It's 26,000 square feet.
Oh, is it total? Where's the,
600 by 200 could be wrong.
My head, is that right?
No, that's not right. It would be more like 60 by 200.
Okay. Yeah, 600 feet is a long building.
60 by 200, give or take.
Yeah.
Now, could you talk to your architect and see if there's any way, for instance, that you could put if there's some way he could break up that run along the roof?
I mean, everything's in front of that roof.
Right.
Yeah, that's what.
So both this and this roof, they both project out, which is shown. You can really see it on the site plan more clearly than you can on the elevation here. But that's they do both project.
On the other side.
This photo? That's the old one. That's an older one.
And perhaps you can see that better. This is from the
east side, yeah.
From the south side, which gives.
Yeah, that's
right. That gives you the projection of the roof at the front door, and then the what I call the tower features. We are breaking that up, I think.
If you could find some way to do that on the east elevation, along the roof line, so that it's not as monolithic.
But that is showing in relief what's happening on the east elevation, is what I think what I was trying to explain. This projects out.
The south elevation.
It is, and this shows how there are projections on the front of the building.
Tower coming out.
Right, 'cause that edge ends here, and that's projecting.
Oh, I see.
Is that, so there are projections.
I think Peter's talking specifically about the fake, what was the term for the roof?
Facade, maybe?
The
faux roof.
The pitch.
Hold on.
Faux roof.
You're talking about the pitched roof, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
That's what Peter was pointing to when he was looking. The only thing breaking that up right now are the two extensions on the front. And I think he was looking for something additional to break up that roof line. Perhaps like a gable or I don't know.
Like
what the
something
word
on
is.
each end, like the views from the other direction.
If there's ability to add something on the ends here, is that what?
Yeah.
Is that?
The term is escaping me right now, but it's an area that's projected out from the roof. It's very common in Cape Cod style homes.
Gables?
It's not.
Dormer.
Dormers.
Maybe a
right.
fake, couple of fake dormers that would break up that,
The long run of the roof, yeah.
if it's feasible.
I mean, you have the tower ends.
And it would be more consistent, I think, with the other architecture that you have there.
We'll so talk to the architect and see if we can incorporate that in there. Now I understand where you're, what you're saying.
Yeah, but it
Something
sounds
to
like
break
you're-
up the roof.
Okay.
I could see something toward the outer edges there, because you have the towers in the middle, and
No, I think the gable ends are fine. You did a nice job.
then, I meant,
The east elevation I was concerned about. But I think if you could get a couple of dormers in there, it would be consistent with the architecture that you have in the other buildings on this site.
Okay. We'll see, right, we'll talk to the architect and see if that works out. But I much clearer now on the direction. That's, right. Thank you.
all right, any other comments from anyone?
No, I think it looks really good, and I really like the earth tones that you have, so that'd be my only comment.
That's, thank you.
Right, I'll make a motion that we approve the architecture as presented with the addition that you investigate the dormer possibility.
Second.
Been seconded, called in question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much.
It sounds like you're struggling to meet, the medical office wants a modern-looking building, and but the architecture of the area is more traditional, so
Right.
trying to marry those is,
It has been, right, it's been right, we've gone through lots of variations on design, and it seems to have met everybody's needs. But we'll again look at the dormers to see if we can break that up a little more.
right,
That's a good idea.
thanks.
Building permit.
Figure it out. Yeah. All right. Couple more agenda items. Dahlia site plan, time extension for an approved site plan for 4 senior housing, 2 mixed-use buildings, total plus minus 84 dwelling units, and 10,124 square foot non-residential. Sophie's Way and Violet Avenue lots, and 35 Violet Avenue zoned R20. Residence, single family, 20,000 square foot, and Shad Senior Housing Overlay District, 7.01 acres. Seeker negative declaration and conditional site plan reapproval granted December 14th, 2017. Linda Idalia, owner. Any comments on this one, Eric?
Nope.
Just,
Happy Thanksgiving.
You too,
yeah,
happy
you too.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Go ahead.
I move that the planning board grant 2 90-day time extensions of conditional site plan approval from December 14th, 2018 forward to June 12th, 2019.
Second.
Moved and seconded for granted time extensions. Call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Stratford Farms, townhouses, time extension of final major subdivision approval and of site plan approval for 26 individual townhouse lots, a common area lot and site improvements on a 6.832 acre parent lot within a previously approved 185 lot subdivision, Stratford Drive, zoned R4A, residence family 4 acre, district 6.832 acres, seeker negative declaration subdivision and site plan approvals on file, ABD Stratford LLC owner. Any further comments here, Eric?
Nope, there's a resolution.
Just a,
I move that the planning board grant 2 90-day time extensions of site plan approval of final major subdivision approval from August 1st, 2018 forward to January 28th, 2019.
Second.
moved and seconded to grant the time extensions to Stratford Farm townhouses. Call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Any other business that anyone has tonight? Any other motions then?
Move that we terminate the meeting.
Second.
And seconded to terminate the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting terminated.
Happy Thanksgiving.